This is the story of the daughter-in-law who couldn't move her mountain. There was a young woman named Sarah who had married into a family with a very difficult situation. Her mother-in-law, Margaret, lived in the same small town and had very strong opinions about how Sarah should run her household, raise her children, and live her life. Margaret would drop by unannounced to criticize Sarah's cooking. She would rearrange Sarah's furniture when babysitting. She would make comments about Sarah's parenting in front of the children. She seemed to find fault with everything Sarah did. Sarah tried every approach she could think of to change Margaret's behavior. She had heart-to-heart conversations attempting to set boundaries. She asked her husband to intervene. She tried being extra nice, hoping kindness would soften Margaret's critical nature. She even tried avoiding her completely for a few months. Nothing worked. Margaret remained as intrusive and critical as ever. Sarah felt like she was banging her head against a stone wall, exhausting herself trying to move an immovable obstacle. After 2 years of this struggle, Sarah was at her breaking point. She felt angry, resentful, and defeated. She was considering asking her husband to move to another city just to escape the situation. In desperation, she decided to seek advice from her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman known for her calm wisdom in handling difficult family situations. "I don't know what else to do," Sarah confessed. "I've tried everything to change Margaret, but she won't budge. She's ruining my peace of mind and affecting my marriage. How can I make her stop being so difficult?" Mrs. Chen listened thoughtfully, then asked a question that surprised Sarah completely. "Why are you trying to change her?" Sarah stared at her, confused. "Because her behavior is making my life miserable. Because she's interfering with my family. Because she's wrong to act this way." Mrs. Chen nodded gently. "I understand why her behavior troubles you. But what if Margaret will never change? What if she's like a boulder that has rolled into your path, too heavy to move, too hard to break, too deeply rooted to dig around?" "Then I'm stuck," Sarah said miserably. Or Mrs. Chen continued, "You could stop trying to move the boulder and find a different path entirely." Sarah looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "Instead of trying to change Margaret, what if you learned to dance around her criticisms? Instead of taking her interference personally, what if you treated it like background noise? Instead of fighting against her nature, what if you accepted it as unchangeable and found ways to protect your peace without requiring her cooperation?" Over the following weeks, Sarah began to experiment with this radically different approach. Instead of arguing when Margaret criticized her cooking, she would smile and say, "That's an interesting perspective, Margaret. I'll consider it." Instead of trying to prevent Margaret's unannounced visits, she simply kept her house the way she liked it and calmly returned anything Margaret rearranged without making it a confrontation. When Margaret made parenting comments in front of the children, instead of getting defensive, Sarah would address her kids directly. "Grandma has her opinions, and I have mine. In our house, we follow our family rules." Gradually, something remarkable happened. By no longer fighting against Margaret's difficult nature, Sarah stopped feeling like a victim of it. Margaret didn't change at all. She remained just as opinionated and intrusive as before. But Sarah's relationship to the situation transformed completely. The constant tension in Sarah's body relaxed. She stopped dreading Margaret's visits because she was no longer trying to control or change them. She actually began to feel a little sorry for Margaret, recognizing that her critical behavior probably came from her own insecurities and need for control. Most surprisingly, by not reacting to Margaret's provocations, Sarah discovered that many of the confrontations simply dissolved. Margaret seemed to lose interest in battles that Sarah refused to fight. 6 months later, when a friend asked Sarah how she had finally gotten Margaret to change, Sarah laughed. I didn't change her at all. I stopped trying to move an unmovable mountain and learned to live peacefully in its shadow instead. She had discovered something profound. The problem was never Margaret's behavior. The problem was Sarah's belief that Margaret's behavior had to change for her to be happy. The Buddha taught that we suffer not because difficult people exist, but because we insist they should be different than they are. When we stop fighting against unchangeable realities, we often find unexpected peace. Think about the unmovable mountains in your own life. Perhaps it's a family member who will never approve of your choices, a boss who will always be demanding, a health condition that limits your activities, a financial situation that constrains your options. How much energy are you spending trying to push against things that may never change? What would happen if you stopped trying to move these obstacles and instead found creative ways to live well alongside them? This doesn't mean becoming passive or accepting abuse. Sarah still maintained her boundaries and protected her family's well-being. But she did it from a place of acceptance rather than resistance, which made all the difference. The ancient Taoist concept of Wu Wei teaches us about effortless action, accomplishing goals by working with natural forces rather than fighting against them. Water carves canyons not by fighting rock, but by persistently finding the path of least resistance. Sarah discovered that she could achieve her real goal, a peaceful family life, much more easily by flowing around Margaret's difficult nature than by trying to change it. Sometimes what we call a problem is actually just a reality we haven't accepted yet. The elderly parent who will always worry too much, the teenager who needs to make their own mistakes, the spouse who will never be as organized as we'd like them to be. These aren't necessarily problems to be solved. They might be realities to be integrated into our lives with wisdom and grace. The Zen tradition speaks of radical acceptance, embracing what is without demanding that it be different. This doesn't mean we like everything or stop working toward positive change where it's possible. It means we stop wasting energy fighting battles we cannot win. Sarah's story reveals something powerful about human relationships. Often, the person who changes first changes everything. By refusing to participate in the old dance of conflict, Sarah created space for a completely new dynamic to emerge. Margaret remained Margaret, but Sarah became free. Free from resentment, free from the exhausting effort of trying to control someone else, free to focus her energy on what she could actually influence, her own responses and choices. Tonight, as you think about your own unmovable mountains, consider Sarah's discovery. What if the obstacle isn't the problem, your resistance to it is? What if the peace you're seeking doesn't require moving the mountain, but simply finding a different path around it? The Buddha said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." True strength often comes not from changing our circumstances, but from changing our relationship to them. Some mountains are meant to stay where they are, but doesn't mean we have to let them block our view of the sky.